The pen felt heavier than the 3 years of marriage it was ending. She didn't cry when he pushed her out. She cried when the door didn't open again. His mother, Eleanor, slid the divorce papers across the polished mahogany table, her manicured nails tapping beside the signature line. "Sign it, Maya," she said, her voice a cocktail of condescending pity and triumph. "It's for the best, for everyone." Maya looked at her husband, Leo, who stood by the fireplace staring at a small, hand-carved wooden bird on the mantelpiece. He wouldn't meet her eyes. He hadn't met her eyes in weeks. His silence was the loudest sound in the room, a screaming admission of his own cowardice. This wasn't just his mother's doing. This was his permission. She picked up the pen. The ink was a deep, merciless black. She thought of the promises made under a canopy of summer stars, the laughter that used to fill this sterile, loveless house. It all felt like a story about someone else. Without a single tear, she signed her name, a clean, steady signature. Eleanor's smile tightened. She expected a scene, a dramatic collapse. She had a check ready, a pittance disguised as a generous settlement, to be thrown at a sobbing woman. But Maya wasn't sobbing. Maya stood up, her movements unnervingly calm. She looked directly at Leo, and for the first time in a long time, he was forced to look back. She didn't look angry. She looked sorry for him. "You'll understand one day, Leo," she said, her voice quiet, but carrying the weight of a prophecy. "And when you do, I hope you can forgive yourself." She turned and walked out of the room, leaving the signed papers, the check, and the suffocating scent of Eleanor's gardenia perfume behind her. She didn't take the designer clothes Eleanor had bought to try and mold her into their image. She didn't take the jewelry. She took only the worn purse on her shoulder and the clothes on her back. The heavy oak door clicked shut behind her, the sound as final as a gavel. Eleanor let out a relieved sigh. "Finally," she said, snatching the papers. "The dead weight is gone. Now we can find you a wife suitable for our family, someone with standards." Leo didn't answer. He just picked up the little wooden bird Maya had carved for him on their first anniversary. It was crude, imperfect, but he remembered the look on her face when she gave it to him. He had called it charming. His mother had called it trash. He placed it back on the mantelpiece, his fingers trembling. For Maya, the first 24 hours were a blur of cold reality. The credit card Leo had given her was declined at a small coffee shop. A text message from the bank confirmed the joint account had been cleared out. Eleanor was fast. She wasn't just cutting ties, she was trying to erase her. Some of us know what it's like to be loyal and be left behind anyway. You give every piece of your heart. You stand by them when they're weak. And for what? To be tossed aside when you're no longer convenient. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do just because it was easier than facing the truth? If you know that feeling, type, "I'm a survivor," in the comments below. We see you. Maya ended up in a cheap motel on the far side of town, the kind with flickering neon signs and the lingering smell of bleach. She paid for 2 nights with the last $100 she had in her purse. She sat on the lumpy bed, the silence of the room a stark contrast to the storm in her mind. But she still didn't cry. Crying was a luxury. Crying meant you had hope something could be fixed. Maya knew this wasn't broken. It was annihilated. The next day, the humiliation escalated. She saw a picture online, posted by one of their friends. It was Leo and his mother dining at Le Ciel, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. They were smiling, raising champagne glasses. The caption read, "A toast to new beginnings and brighter futures." #family first. It was a public execution of her memory. They weren't just moving on, they were celebrating her absence. I saw the comments. So glad he's free. She was never right for him. Eleanor always knows best. Each word was a fresh cut. She thought sleeping in a dingy motel was the worst of it until she saw their car pull up outside her window the next morning. Not the fancy sedan. It was the groundskeeper's old truck. Leo got out. He was tired, his expensive suit rumpled. He was holding an envelope. He knocked on her door, avoiding the peeling paint and the rust stains. Maya opened in. I felt bad, he stammered, not looking at her. Mom said it was best to make a clean break, but this is for you, to help you get on your feet. He held out the envelope. It was thick with cash. Pity money. Guilt money. She looked at the envelope, then at his face. The face she had loved. The face she had traced in her sleep. It looked weak. Pathetic. No, thank you, Leo, she said, her voice firm. Maya, please, just take it. I know this is hard. You have no idea what's hard, Leo, she interrupted, a flicker of fire finally showing in her eyes. Hard is watching the man you love let his mother destroy your life because he's too scared to be a man. Keep your money. You and your mother will need it more than I do. He flinched, as if he'd slapped him. What's that supposed to mean? It means goodbye. She closed the door in his face, the click echoing the one from their mansion a day before. Through the pier hole, she watched him stand there for a full minute, confused and rejected, before he got back in the truck and drove away. The moment he was gone, Maya's composure finally cracked, not with tears, but with a shuddering breath of pure, unadulterated resolve. She took out her phone, a cheap prepaid model she'd bought that morning. She scrolled to a single contact, a name Leo and his mother had never heard, a name she hadn't used in 3 years, honoring a promise to live a normal life, to see if she could be loved for who she was, not what she came from. The name on the screen was simply Dad. She pressed call. It rang once. A deep, calm voice answered. Mija, I was wondering when you'd call. Is everything all right? Maya's voice was thick with emotion. Hi, Papa. No, everything is not all right. Tell me where you are. Don't move. I'm sending Marcus. An hour later, Leo was driving back to the city, the envelope of cash sitting on the passenger seat like an accusation. His mother's words echoed in his head. She's a nobody, Leo. Her father was a mechanic who died years ago. She has nothing. He had believed her. It was easier to believe her. He passed by the rundown motel again, a sick feeling twisting in his gut. And that's when he saw it. Parked in front of Maya's room was a car that didn't belong in this part of the universe. A gleaming black Rolls-Royce Phantom, so polished it reflected the gray, gloomy sky like a black mirror. A man in a suit so sharp it could cut glass was holding the door open. And Maya walked out. She wasn't the woman in worn jeans he had just left. She was wearing a simple but elegant dress he had never seen before. Her hair was pulled back. She carried herself with an authority he had never witnessed. She looked powerful.
Leo pulled his truck over, his heart pounding in his chest. This made no sense. He watched as the man, Marcus, spoke to her with deference. Miss Alistair, your father is waiting. The jet is fueled and ready for takeoff. Alistair? Her name was Maya Thorne. He had seen the marriage certificate. As if sensing his presence, Maya turned and her eyes met his across the street. There was no anger, no sadness. There was only a profound, unshakable finality. She gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, a final acknowledgement of the life she was leaving behind. Then she slid into the back of the Rolls-Royce. Leo stumbled out of his truck, his mind reeling. "Wait!" he yelled, running across the street. The man, Marcus, turned, blocking his path with a polite but immovable presence. "Can I help you, sir?" Marcus asked, his voice smooth and cold. "Who are you? Where are you taking my wife?" Leo demanded, his voice cracking. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Your wife? I believe you'll find Miss Alastair is no longer your wife thanks to this." He held up a tablet displaying a digital copy of the signed divorce papers. "As for who I am Marcus Vance, executive assistant to Mr. Alastair." "Alastair? I don't understand. Her father is dead. His name was Thorne." Marcus allowed himself a small, chilling smile. "You are mistaken. Her mother's name was Thorne. She took it after leaving her husband, a small act of rebellion. Maya's father, however, is very much alive. You may have heard of him, Damien Alastair." The name hit Leo like a physical blow. Damien Alastair, the reclusive titan of industry. The phantom billionaire who owned tech companies, global shipping lines, and half the real estate in 3 different countries. A man so wealthy and private he was more myth than reality. A man whose net worth made Leo's family fortune look like pocket change. He stared, dumbfounded, as the Rolls-Royce pulled away, its engine a soft, expensive whisper. He was still standing there, his world completely shattered, when his phone rang. It was his mother. "Dylan, I have the most wonderful news. I've arranged a dinner with the Vanderbilts. Their daughter, Tiffany, is just back from Switzerland. Perfect for you." Leo could barely form words. "Mother, what have you done?" The moment the tables turned, that gut punch of realization when you discover the person you underestimated was the one holding all the cards. If you believe karma is real, smash that like button. Let's see how many of us are waiting for justice to be served. A week later, the first tremor hit the foundation of Leo's world. A major investor in his family's company abruptly pulled out, citing a portfolio realignment. It was a 7-figure loss. Eleanor dismissed it as market volatility. Then a second investor pulled out, and a third. Whispers started in their elite circles. Contracts were mysteriously canceled. Decades-long business relationships soured overnight. The bank that had held their family's loans for 50 years suddenly called for an immediate review of their credit lines. Eleanor was in a panic. "This is a coordinated attack," she shrieked during a tense family dinner. "Someone is trying to ruin us." Leo sat at the end of the table, silent. He knew who it was. It wasn't an attack. It was a consequence. Damien Alastair wasn't just a billionaire. He was a kingmaker. And his influence was a silent, invisible tide that could wash away empires without a single cannon shot. And they had hurt his daughter. He found the little wooden bird Maya had carved, lying in a box of things his mother had deemed clutter to be thrown out. Its wing was chipped. He took it to his study and sat for hours trying to glue the tiny piece of wood back into place, a futile attempt to mend something that was irreparably broken. The final blow came not as a bang, but as a quiet, formal letter. A hostile takeover bid for their company financed by an unknown holding corporation. The offer was insultingly low, but it was just enough to entice their now panicked shareholders. The name of the holding corporation was A.T. Holdings. Alastair Thorne. A final, poetic piece of justice. Stripped of their company and their social standing, they were forced to sell the mansion. The day they moved out, Leo stood in the empty living room where Maya had signed the papers. His mother was a shell of her former self, her arrogance replaced by a bitter, simmering rage. "This is her fault," she hissed. "That conniving, deceitful little snake. She played us." "No, Mother," Leo said, his voice hollow. "She didn't play us. She tried to love me. She gave me a chance to be a man, and I failed. We didn't lose our money. We lost her. The money was just the collateral damage. He left his mother standing there and drove away with no destination in mind. He thought about Maya. He wondered if she ever thought of him. He tried to call her, but the number was disconnected. He sent emails, but they went unanswered. He was locked out, just like he had locked her out. Months turned into a year. Leo took a modest job, a humbling experience that chipped away at his pride. He learned what it meant to earn a living, to be accountable. He was haunted by the woman he had lost, not because of her father's wealth, but because he finally understood the value of her quiet strength, her unconditional loyalty, a loyalty he had betrayed. One day he saw her. It was on the cover of Forbes magazine. The headline read, "Maya Alistair, the new face of philanthropy. How Damien Alistair's heiress is changing the world." The picture was of her, standing on a stage, addressing a crowd. She looked radiant, confident, and at peace. She was speaking about a new global initiative to fund shelters for the homeless and disenfranchised. The article detailed how she had leveraged her family's resources to create one of the largest charitable foundations in the world. She was using her power, not for revenge, but for good. The article mentioned she had based her foundation's core principles on her own experiences. Sometimes, she was quoted, "You have to lose everything to realize what's truly valuable. I was lucky. I had a safety net. My goal is to be that safety net for others." Leo bought the magazine. He went home to his small apartment and sat, staring at her picture. The pity he had once felt for her had transformed into a profound, aching admiration. She didn't need his pity money. She was the rich one all along, not in dollars, but in character. He finally understood what she meant that day. "I hope you can forgive yourself." He knew now that he never would. But maybe, just maybe, he could become a man she wouldn't have to be ashamed of. He took out a piece of paper and began to write. It wasn't a plea for her to come back. It was an apology, a confession. He told her he was sorry for his weakness, for his silence, for letting his mother's poison seep into our marriage. He told her he was proud of the woman she had become. He didn't ask for a response. He sealed the envelope, addressed it to her foundation's headquarters, and dropped it in the mail. It was an act of letting go. This isn't just a story about a secret billionaire. It's a story about self-worth. It's for anyone who has ever been made to feel small, for anyone who has had to walk away to find themselves. True wealth isn't in a bank account. It's in the strength to stand on your own 2 feet, to choose yourself even when it hurts. If you've ever had to make that choice, to walk away and rebuild, share this story with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone. Their new beginning is waiting.